Welcome back to the 990 podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the 990 podcast.
Hey.
We're on
on
episode 7.
7, yeah.
Wow.
How you feel, Jay?
You know what, man? I feel really good. To be honest with you, this has been so much more fun than I thought it would be. A little bit of backstory here. Ray wore me down. He had this idea for quite some time. I think every time we hung out, he said, this would be really cool if we did this.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I was really apprehensive about it, mainly because I don't know how I feel still about being on mic and being on camera. They said that the camera adds 10 pounds. They didn't say that it adds 27 pounds. So I really don't look like this all the time, guys. Shout out to my wife for telling me that I gotta step up my skincare routine. 4K got me looking like I'm 53 years old.
No. Thanks, Tris. Good intentions.
Always good intentions.
But it's funny you say that because, at first it was apprehensive. I mean, I could catch the vibe of it.
Yeah, man.
You're
I'm feeling more relaxed. I definitely,
Oh, yeah.
Again, I think it
Much
helps
more.
that me and you are friends. We talk like this again. I think people would ask, like, do you guys talk like this normally? And the answer is yes, we do.
Yeah.
I don't talk like this with everybody, but with Ray, for some reason, he just has this awesome disarming quality that makes me want to answer questions and ask questions, So, there's just been a genuine curiosity, I think, to some of these topics that we've been covering.
Yep.
Today, I just kind of wanted to start off with some gratitude. Just number one, thank you to you. This was something that I've always been a fan of the podcasting platform. Never ever once did I think like I would be doing this. Number one, I don't have the resources, and I didn't even know where to begin with it. Nor did I think it would be very interesting to kind of hear myself talk or just talk for hours at a time. But this is really not just kind of introduced me to this platform, but really it's just been fun. We talked about it being therapeutic.
Yeah. I mean, before we move on, I'd like to say thank you to you as well, bro. I think, when we started, I had the intention of displaying our conversations because, we're just two, I think we're heartfelt people.
Yeah.
I think we have really good direction in life. I think we have very unique experiences that can, maybe open up some ideas for other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even as we're going into gratitude, I need someone mentioned on the 990 Instagram how thankful they were for you and kind of encouraging. I'll let you go with that, but
Yeah.
I'm super stoked that you're kind of on the train now.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm stoked because I think I didn't really know where I wanted to go in terms of like it being more refined and stuff. But
Absolutely.
I'm so stoked you're like,
Well, I think you and I are both perfectionists, right? The idea of doing something and failing really isn't in our vocabulary. So to do something with no knowledge of what it's going to be or what it's supposed to look like,
Yeah.
it's a little daunting. I'm kind of finding more fun in the flaws, to be honest with you.
yeah.
That there are going to be times where we do not know what we're doing and we're kind of literally just piecing it together, figuring it out.
Yeah.
That's kind of been the theme so far. But yeah, man, just shouting some people out. Like I just really want to just say thank you to everybody that's kind of reached out, DMs, text messages. Very, very amazing. I think we got some really, really great friends that have been supporting the pod. And even some strangers that have kind of just recently joined in. I think it's really awesome that this is getting to people. It's one day at a time, one follower at a time, one listener at a time. Absolutely. And again, when you look at what we're doing this for, it's not for fame and fortune. Let's be honest. I think we just really, really thought that we had some messages that we could get out there, and I'm glad it's hitting people.
Yeah.
In particular, we got some great feedback as well. One of the things that I've kind of heard as a common theme is, man, you talk a lot, Jay. Like it is just you talking here. And first and foremost, let's make it clear that again, Ray brought this to my table. And I think what's really important is just kind of getting to know the people that are behind the microphone. And one thing that I really love is that Ray and I have had a friendship for years now. But as we have been talking these during these episodes, there's so much more that I'm learning about you. And I thought it'd be really interesting today to kind of just ask you some questions. Mainly kind of in the realm of culture, in the realm of heritage, and like how these things played into, your upbringing, your current existence. If these things define you, I think it's a very relatable topic, for our audience, and something that I genuinely am curious about. So, if that's cool with you,
let's get it on, bro.
Yeah, man, I got some questions.
Got the iPad going on.
I got the iPad.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So this is a legitimate podcast, guys.
You know.
Can't do a podcast without an iPad.
Enough for the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So Ray, for everybody listening here, where were you born?
So I was born. A lot of people think I was born here because sometimes I can turn on the pigeon out. I mean, depends who I talk to, and then I can turn them on or off if I like. It just depends. If someone from the mainland, then it's the mainland. But that side note. But yeah, I was born in the Philippines.
Okay.
In Angeles City, Philippines. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Is that one of the major cities there, or?
I don't know, bro.
Really? Okay.
There's so many there's so many provinces and cities out there. I mean, Manila is the main the most known one, I believe. But Angeles is, I think it's somewhere near a province called Pampanga, which is where my mom is from. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have any memories of your home?
Actually, no.
Really?
It's kind of sad in a sense. There's two memories that I know of, and I can touch on that a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of sad because to think you were born for somewhere, and this can go to like another podcast,
right?
But I do think about that identity thing because it's like if you were born in the Philippines, shouldn't you be? Where do you put your cards in, or where gotcha. Your identity in?
Okay.
But before I go down that hole, I'll name one memory out of the two, but one of them was this robot that my dad got me from, I think he was from Japan.
Okay.
So he did some work in Japan, and he brought a robot home, and it was back then, it was kind of one of those toys that you don't really see on the shelf because it's high tech because it had a screen.
Exclusive.
In Japan, man. It had a screen on the robot, and it's kind of like, it's taking you through this like ride or whatever.
Okay.
Digital ride. But receiving that was one of my fondest memories over there.
Nice.
Another one, I have a few, but another one is that my parents used to, when they go to the market, my parents would tell me, okay, Anak, go to sleep. So side note, Anak is like an endearment term for a child or my child. Anak. Yeah.
Okay.
So they go, oh, Anak, go to sleep, take a nap, and then when we get home, I'll have a toy for you when we come back from the market.
Okay.
I'd wake up and there'd be a plastic ninja sword on the side of my bed.
Dope.
Or random, trinkets and stuff. But those are like just very vague memories, bro.
Got it.
From the Philippines, yeah.
Well, how old were you when you so your entire family immigrated at the same time?
Yeah, the core family.
Okay.
Which I was 5 at the time. So
5.
I arrived in the Philippines in Waipahu, Hawaii at 5. Yeah.
There you go. Shout out.
Waipahu. At that time, bro, I believe there was I read some statistic that I think like 95% of Waipahu was all Filipinos. Or no, was Filipinos.
Okay.
Which probably is still true to this day, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
But yeah, arrived there in 95. I forgot. I think it was like March.
Really?
March, yeah.
Okay.
1995. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever discussed with your parents why they moved to the United States?
I think everyone had the American dream in the back of their head.
Right.
Everyone knew that America was a place that they can build a life and build something that they can, be not proud of, but just take advantage of the opportunities.
Gotcha.
Back in the Philippines, I mean, you ask any older generation, everything was just so not scarce, but they were grateful for the little that they had.
Got it.
So when they see something that's when they see opportunities, they're not quick. They're not slow to jump on it or to have second thoughts. So that in itself, bro, I'd say it was a testimony of us getting there. And I can. Do we have time? I think we have time.
Yeah, we got time.
So the way that we came here, Joe, was that my dad used to work for an air base called Clark Air Base in the Philippines. It's a U.S. air base there, military base there. The minimum years required to get a special visa or a special permit to come to the United States was 15 years.
15.
You'd have to work with them 15 years.
Wow.
And so 15 years, that's a long time, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's a commitment. You got to be there and you got to complete that in order to even apply for this visa, this special visa.
What did your dad do for Clark?
HR.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
So he did HR here as well, and so he's really good with people and just his words and and that's I think I got some stuff from him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I can see that.
15 years. The problem with not the problem, but the crazy thing, Gerald, was that there was a volcano eruption.
Okay.
And where we lived. And when that happened, they had to shut down Clark Air Base, and my dad was at 13 years.
No way.
It was not. Yeah, it was 13 years.
Okay.
Devastated. Didn't know what was gonna happen, so they closed down Clark Air Base, and luckily they said that, hey, we're gonna move some of you guys to. There's some things that you can do in Japan, and so my dad worked in Japan for a little bit.
Got it.
And even then, I think for like the next 6 months, they were. It was still not enough to.
So the family was still in the Philippines. Your dad was just in
Yeah,
Japan.
he had to work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eventually, they gave them the news that, hey, there's another base in where we were staying at, close to a home, that my dad can work off of.
Gotcha.
And so they opened that up for a little bit. And eventually, my dad made the 15 years.
Hey.
It was a scary time, though, because when that mountain erupted, we just didn't know. I mean, 13 years, if you're counting, that's kind of devastating, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, who would have known that we were able to, or my dad was able to receive that blessing of being able to work those 15 years.
For sure.
So after those 15 years, I got the visa, and then we were accepted. Yeah.
So your dad, obviously working with the U.S., learned to speak English like through school or
in the Philippines.
Okay.
English is almost like a second language that then you need to know.
What, man, United States, shame on you. Shame on you. Like I think about that. I hear about this a lot.
Yeah.
Where you have other countries where it's just the norm to know multiple languages.
Yeah.
United States, we can barely speak our own language. It's crazy, but hey, no,
that's true.
That's interesting.
So a lot of people, a lot of businesses, they just kind of require you to know.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
and then, just kind of going even before all of that, your mom and dad, did they know each other like growing up or like how did they meet?
Yeah, so they met at church actually.
Okay,
My
gotcha.
dad was he was a music director there.
Oh, okay.
And he was young. I mean, my dad was in the church. He was teaching choir at like 15 or something.
it.
He was just, man, the Lord just kind of put a hand on him, and that's
Destiny,
just
huh?
his life. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that was his thing. My mom was actually a Catholic.
Okay.
And long story short, she converted for my dad.
Hey. It happens.
that wasn't like the actual thing, but time after time she'd attend church from her cousin inviting her.
Okay.
Where my dad was at, and they just kind of grew and eventually started dating, and that's how they met, and ever since then, just life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this kind of answers just what you're saying here. I'm assuming that the move to Hawaii was based off of the military.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what their plan was, but I think they already had it in them to, if there's an opportunity,
Yep.
then they'll try to take the chance on it.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
yeah, I don't know where that played in terms of the timeline where my dad, in the timeline that my dad worked at with Clark Air Base.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure what the details are, but that's like the main story for how we got
that's
here.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did your family already have friends and family here in Hawaii, or was this just completely new?
It was completely
Really?
new. We had my mom's cousin who was the one that invited.
Okay.
She was Dave. I don't know if they're married yet. Uncle Dave. He was a military guy from the mainland.
Okay.
And they eventually got married, and I think they were telling us, hey, you should try to come. Maybe that's how it went.
Yeah.
But she was the only relative here in Hawaii.
okay.
Yeah. So, growing up, we didn't have cousins until later on, we did a little bit, but I don't think
distant family. Though.
Yeah.
I got you. Mm-hmm. Is Uncle? Did you interview your Uncle Dave on your other podcast?
No, that's another guy.
Another guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of your back catalog, doing my research here.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing somebody else that you were talking to. I was like, maybe that guy fit the bill here. But,
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Yep.
Nice. All right. So, what do you think was the biggest challenge for your family moving to another country?
I think so. What's funny was that we had a chance to go to New Jersey.
Okay.
I think they give us multiple places. New Jersey was too cold for my mom.
Can you imagine your life, how different it would be if you guys were on the East Coast?
The first thing I think about when I think about that question is I would have pursued music more.
Really?
Yeah, I was so close-minded with where I lived in Hawaii, because my mentality was, no, Hawaii's too small. I'm not gonna get anywhere with that. And I was just close-minded, bro.
Yeah.
I was young, and I didn't realize the power of, the internet came out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And, that changed things. But New Jersey, I can't imagine. I would have pursued music if anything.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but New Jersey was too cold for my mom, because my mom would have these kind of like health things, or she would get something would happen to her body if she got like super cold. And it happened a few times before, and so she was like, no, we're not going to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And during that time, there were some things in the church there that my dad was like, nah, we don't want to go into whatever's happening there.
Got it.
Yeah. So Hawaii was a strong second.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
What are your first memories of Hawaii that you can recollect?
Yeah, Hawaii was when I think about childhood in Hawaii, it's a lot of church friends and church gatherings. And when I think of childhood memories, I think of me seeing Lion King at Circle of Life at the school show.
Yeah.
Getting a first Nintendo, and I don't know. Hawaii was. It's hard to say because. You're just a child. Yeah, you don't really have that awareness of the big things. Yeah.
Okay.
But those were kind of like the immediate things that I kind of felt, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This actually kind of goes into my next question, though. So you have siblings, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You're the youngest.
Youngest of three.
And you have two older sisters.
Two older sisters, all 3 years apart.
All 3 years apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, just being the youngest, how do you feel like their immigration experience was different than yours?
I think because I'm not sure. I think we were all in good ages where we could get accustomed to the culture.
Okay.
And my oldest sister was the only one that retained her Tagalog.
Oh, okay.
The other two could understand. Myself and my middle sister, we could understand, but it wasn't until later that my other sister took classes and learned how to fluently speak.
Gotcha.
For myself, it was just understanding the language, and so I think because you're heading into a new place, there's that feeling. Well, as kids, you don't understand, but as an adult now, I look back and I'm thinking, that's an interesting move because one, you're Filipino,
right?
But you're coming to America, and Hawaii was another. Hawaii is different from the other.
It is.
Other states,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we chose Hawaii because Hawaii just. I think maybe you can relate to this, and Hawaii is just such a huge part of how we grew up.
It is. It is. You know, what's interesting with Hawaii, I think in particular, is, you know, if you look at our entire nation, we're a nation of immigrants, right? We've all come from different parts of the world, and you know, the United States kind of was supposedly that melting pot, but Hawaii in particular, I think even more so when you look at like just a lot of the minorities, you know, like we are of the majority here in Hawaii, and that's kind of a unique experience as well, right?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I think everyone now, I want to speak for myself, but I think Hawaii is the best place to raise children, because like we just mentioned, it's a huge melting pot. Everyone brings in the best of their culture. Here, I think a lot of, you know, one of the things that, I don't want to get too political, but one of the things that my boss mentioned was that, you know, the United States didn't give Hawaii the chance to kind of make it on their own. They just kind of took over, and the problem for my boss mentioned this, and I was like, dang, that's so good. They took away the right to choose, or the right to try. That was a problem, because in my head before, I was like, I get both sides, and I get that you know, we don't know how Hawaii would have turned out if they left Hawaii alone, kind of deal, but what my boss said was just profound in saying that they took away the chance to, you know, for us to do things on our own. And when I look at it now, what happened on the Maui fires, when the world seen that how Hawaii just came together, that was insane. And it's like people could learn from Hawaii.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely.
And that's why I think Hawaii, one of the many things I love about Hawaii, because everyone just, it sounds corny, but the word aloha, it's like, it's so evident here. From the locals, you know, and I'm sure there's, you know, there's bad apples everywhere. But I'm so glad that my parents chose Hawaii. What was the question again?
No. I thank you for that. So I think what's interesting. So you said 3 years apart. So your oldest sister is 6 years older than you. Correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to think like at that age, you know, she has roots. She's got, you know, she at that point, it's such a formative age, you know, kind of growing up in the Philippines, and then I don't want to say uprooted, because I know that there was a plan that your family had, but you know, like, you know, you think about like schooling, friends, family, all of that stuff, you know, I'm just wondering how that affected maybe a sibling. And then you said at your age, but what's interesting, Ray, is actually, I had no idea that you were 5. I thought you were younger.
I see.
I thought you were younger, because that's still a very formative age as well. Like, it's a very impressionable time for someone. And you think at that point, you're starting to figure out like, hey, I'm not home anymore. And this is now home,
right. Even the language barrier too.
Sure.
I remember having a book phase.
Explain.
So it's just kind of like a fob, fresh out the boat thing.
Yeah.
And you know, when someone's straight from the Philippines, and let's say you're a teenager, you have just an accent of, you know, Pidgin or English that's very Filipino, and we just call it book.
You went into kindergarten then, pretty much, right?
Pretty much
short after. So did you do like ESL and stuff like that?
No, you know, it was weird because normally they do, I don't remember going to any classes like that.
Interesting.
So
your middle sister though, I'm curious to see what that experience was for, because you know, again, like you got an even age gap, right? So that'd be interesting to see someone that was still very young, but right in the middle, where, you know, also starting to formulate their life, you know, as they know it back in the Philippines, and now calling Hawaii home. That must have been a huge change for her as well.
I think for us, just as kids in general, when, you know, I'm so grateful for the way that my parents raised us, and when I think of kids seeing new things and new shiny objects, so to speak, opportunities to get new toys or things that we couldn't get back in the Philippines, I mean, there's a chance that we could have ended up ungrateful for things, or you know what I mean, like just become more what's the word, you know, just more focused on these materialistic things.
That makes sense.
But you know, my parents were so good at at monitoring that, and really they just had a good system of us giving us things and presents or whatever it is that America had to offer. I remember growing up, bro, it's funny because we moved here, and they got jobs, good jobs, and whatnot. But I don't remember. As a kid, we didn't get real Christmas presents from my parents.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know. The thing is, we did get things that we need throughout the year. But in terms of like presents and stuff, we didn't get like major ones from our parents. Yeah, so
and now your daughter gets everything, right?
Pretty much.
Funny how that works.
Pretty much. So when we do get a present from auntie or something, then you're just so stoked.
Gotcha.
But I've learned to understand their viewpoint on that, and they would. And I remember my mom specifically saying that as well. Like, sometimes we can't get you everything, but if you do need something, like the things that you need, 100% it's there. Yeah. And I totally get it now. And I'm glad that I've taken that from my parents. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. When you think about like just your Filipino culture, how did that shape your childhood? And I asked this with the idea of, I obviously didn't know what your household was like, but you can kind of paint that picture. Like, was it something where your parents really wanted to make sure you guys was assimilation a big and important deal for them into American culture, or did they want to really maintain your Filipino culture and heritage in the household?
Off the bat, I think in my head they didn't have like a real not agenda, but a real target or a real intention of trying to fit in or whatever. But I think because they're just Filipino to the core, we just grew up whatever we did doing in the Philippines.
Okay.
So mom would cook, and this I didn't realize this, but not every parent cooks in the house.
Yeah.
My mom I don't want to say in the Philippine culture, but I want to speak for myself and say that my Filipino mom would always cook our food. Yeah. So we never buy out.
Nice.
And they were
home cooked meals, man.
Yeah, home cooked meals. And shout out Pampanga. Wow. The place of cooks, great cooks. There's this thing where it's like, if they're from Pampanga, they're like super good cooks. Okay. And my mom's just like amazing at cooking. And as I'm saying this now, I'm thinking I gotta learn from her before these things go to waste. But her Pancit Palabok, it's just like thin noodles with. It's like, I don't know if it's peanut butter base. I don't even know what it is, bro. Yeah. But there's egg on top, and you put calamansi on there. But everyone says something. I mean, there's foods that you're like, oh, this is good. You think in your head. But then there's foods where it's like, you have to say like, oh, dang, this is really good. Yeah. And every time she cooks that for people at parties, or they always mention, and they always know that as, Auntie Jasmine's
dish,
cooking.
Right?
Yeah, that's her dish. Growing up, so in a Filipino household, she'd always cook. Another aspect of growing up in a Filipino household for us was disciplining. Okay. We get the slipper or we get the belt.
We had the rice. We had the rice.
You had the rice battle. You had the rice battle.
Yeah.
You and your older.
Yeah, me and my younger sister. We had the rice battle. Yeah.
They and even this is like. I'm probably gonna take to my kids as well, but there's a certain age where they stopped, obviously, right? Yeah. And of course, when people say this to get like riled up or whatever, but I'm like, obviously within reason, and you have to explain. This is the thing that people don't say. Like we do. My parents did spank us and disciplined us, but they always talked to us after. Yeah. And they always made sure they understood why they did it and what we could do to not. Have that happen again. Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Quick story on disciplining. Me and my sisters, we all got into a fight with each other. Okay. I don't know what it was, and my dad was just so. If it's dad, you already know something went really bad. If it was my mom, it's kind of okay. The threat level is okay.
Threat level.
Yeah, we'll be like, okay, not too bad. Yeah. We can still get rowdy, whatever. But then when mom calls dad, it's done.
DEFCON 3 right there. Right?
But so dad was called. He said, "Hey, get in the room like right now." And so for some reason, something just clicked in all three of us, and we're like. we just got on the same team, and we were like, "Hey, Dad called us to go. Hurry up and put up multiple pants on."
Oh,
To diminish, or to
yes,
the
lesson
pants
below right there.
yeah. So we just got on the same team. It's like camaraderie. We go inside, and I think my oldest got the first ones.
Yeah.
So right before, and my dad made us stand on the side, and we're kind of fake crying, whatever. My dad goes to my sister, "Take off your pants."
He knew. He knew.
He knew, and so we all got it, and we couldn't help but laugh at some, while it was happening. But disciplining was another part of the household.
Got you.
And if we were disciplined, it was because it was something really bad.
Right,
kind of like I want to say last year, but towards that level, yeah.
Right.
So that's another aspect of Filipino household that I grew up in. When I learned that a lot of families would come as like a unit, like a bigger unit. Yeah.
I was going to just ask you about that, to be honest.
That's what I learned. And that they rent out one big house and they all live together. For us, it was different. It was just us. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. You just had your nuclear immediate family.
Yeah. Nuclear immediate family. And so we didn't grow up with cousins or we had a few like later on, but we didn't grow up with them kind of deal.
So, I mean, from I mean, and I don't ever want to like stereotype or anything like that, but I do know how important the family is, extended family in particular with the Filipino culture.
Yeah.
Everybody's an auntie or cousin or whatnot. So not having blood relatives moving here, like, do you feel like, just kind of growing up, did you notice that your family gravitated towards other Filipinos that maybe had like a similar experience?
I think because we chose to live in Waipahu. I think that was just a big thing.
Got it.
And the church that we chose to commit to was heavily a Filipino church.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it kind of fitted in, and it wasn't so bad for us in a sense. And again, Hawaii is a melting pot, and even in school, there's a bunch of different races and cultures, so it wasn't so bad as some people might think it to be.
Do you think and school's a good example because obviously, you're going to have probably the most diversity within schools. Did you feel like, growing up, did you feel different than your non-Filipino friends?
No, I don't think so. I went to school in August Aarons, and that was the biggest elementary school at that time.
What is the name?
August Aarons Elementary School.
Sounds like an emo band.
Right? Well, there's August Burns Red.
Okay. I was like, wait a second. Sounds familiar. All right. Still talking about emo stuff.
Yeah. we'll probably definitely have one. We'll deep dive in the emo one. But in school, I didn't really feel different. And I think it's mainly because I knew how to navigate around friends.
Gotcha.
I don't want to brag, but I was probably one of the best dodgeball players in sixth grade.
That's all you need.
Everyone wanted to be in my team, bro.
There you go.
Not even joking. But yeah, that was I knew how to make friends, and I knew how to be with every crowd, I guess, in elementary. I think high school is a little bit different, emo phase and
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I didn't really feel different growing up in elementary school. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, good. I mean, so you already talked about your sister maintaining the language.
Yeah.
How important was that for your family? Did they primarily spoke Tagalog in
Tagalog? Yeah.
In the
household? Yes.
Okay.
Not primarily. Okay. They'll speak it, I think, with the intention of us keeping it or learning or sustaining that understanding.
How much have you maintained?
I mean, I can understand a conversation.
Okay.
I won't understand the details of it, but if there's like a 5-minute conversation, I could probably come up with a good summary of what they're talking about. My mom spoke Pampangan, and that's the dialect that they speak in Pampanga, and so I understand a little bit more of that, I think, versus Tagalog. But Tagalog is kind of like the main one, and it kind of pulls from every dialect. I don't want to say every dialect pulls from that, but there's some similarities to that. Yeah, but I think when you think about language, Joe, that's the one thing that sustains a culture in terms of like their traditions and all of their past lives, and I think, what was it, someone once said like, oh, if you want to get rid of a people, you take away the culture or their language. And so for me, I've always envisioned myself as a grown-up scolding my kids in Tagalog. That I don't know if that's still gonna happen, but in my head, I'm like, there's a lot of people that knows Tagalog, so I probably won't learn it, which is weird because, I think there's a sense of pride when you learn or you have another language in your arsenal. I don't know. I don't feel as convicted to learn it. And I think it's because I think there's a lot of Filipinos throughout the world already, and it's nothing to... And I don't take this lightly. I don't want to say like this doesn't have weight, but for me, it's like it's not as needed right now. I think that's just my personal thing.
That makes sense. Hawaii is really unique as well, though. So I mean, if you talk about how important language is, I feel like just even the creation of pidgin, it's just kind of this amalgamation of just different languages, and it was the way for people to communicate. You know, broken English was a thing because, again, we were an entire, population of immigrants. And in order to be able to speak, like they kind of had to piece together a language that made sense to everybody, right?
Out in the plantation fields.
Absolutely.
You got all the cultures building to one.
With that, and then also the food, right? So if you look at like what we consider local food, it's a mix of everything. Right? I don't think people really understand how unique that is.
Oh yeah. I mean, when people come from the mainland, you don't get this variety in one town. You know what I mean?
Adobo, spam musubi on the same plate, right? It happens. So
Yep.
Nice. You ever feel like your Filipino culture clashed with your American upbringing?
Oh, this is a good one. No, not really.
Not really? No. I mean, and again, I think everybody has a unique experience, right?
Yeah. I know some people that go hard for the culture, and I think that's good. For me, I don't know, man. I think Hawaii is just a special place for being just not dumb, for coming into. And I'm just so thankful that it was Hawaii because, again, there's just the culture, the mixed culture, is just so like underrated. You don't get that anywhere else. And
I just think about young Ray if he had been living on the East Coast or on the mainland U.S. where maybe your family just felt truly as a minority. How that would have affected. Not just your psyche, but just it'd be curious to see what your relationship would be to your culture.
That's so good.
Like if everything else was so different and opposing. That's
so good.
Like I'm wondering how that would have been.
That's a good thought, bro. And the story I think about is when we went on tour with the bandmates, and we were in like some room.
Shameless plug. Ray used to be in a band.
Oh
yeah. What was your band called?
Well, there are multiple ones, but the band that I went with, who asked me to sing for them, was called All Heart. They're a pop punk band. Back in 2010, around that time. But they asked me to sing for them because they needed a singer at that time, and they're going straight to tour.
Okay.
And we're finishing up an album, and they're like, "Yo, we gotta finish lyrics." I listen to it now, and it's like, not so good, bro. It's so corny. Sorry, guys. But so we went on tour, and the story I think about is when we went to like some like middle, what do you call, one of those weird like
Middle America.
Middle America states, and we walked into like this diner, and you can just feel the whole room just turn. Like they're not actually turned, but you can feel that there's some type of like atmosphere. And I don't know, maybe it's because like my boys had tattoos and we're just rowdy kids. Maybe it was that, but it felt more of like a kind of like a weird energy or vibe, however you want to call it. But I think of that story and learning that out, bro. I was so close-minded in terms of like racism when I was growing up. I mean, even as a kid though, I didn't really think about that stuff. because growing up here, we don't really feel it.
Yeah.
But when we went to the mainland and when I started going there, oh man, you can immediately tell that it's alive there.
I feel like, you know, I feel like it's one of those unfortunate life lessons that is important, if that makes sense, right? You know, like you want to be idealistic and feel like you would be accepted any door you walk into, but truthfully, I feel that it's important to know what that feels like so that you can empathize and sympathize with others better. You know? And again, growing up in Hawaii, it's just such a different experience for us because you don't know what it feels like to be a minority.
Yeah, exactly. You
Where
nailed it, bro.
You know, everybody looks similar, and then you go somewhere where you're the only one that looks the way you do. It's a completely different life there. You know.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think in the mainland, now that I think of it, I think I would be more inclined to learn or to learn my language.
Okay.
Growing up.
Yeah.
At that time. I mean, these days, you can learn any language on the app. I mean, it's accessible.
It is.
You have apps that suck in, that translate on the go, on the spot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like less, it feels less important. But now that the way that you position it, I think, yeah, for sure. I think I would have been more inclined to kind of be like, hey, Filipino.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, well, let's see here. So, if you think back about the way that you grew up, what are some of the things that are unique to your heritage that you want to teach and instill in your daughter?
Oh, that's solid. That's solid. I think it's mostly values versus culture.
Okay.
But of course, there's a pride in the lineage of your family. And so when I think of those things, I think of my mom's cooking, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like part of my family culture. And I think that's something, in fact, I told Joss before I married her, I was like, jokingly, but not jokingly, I was like, hun, if you want me to marry you, you're gonna learn my mom's cooking if we get married.
Yeah.
I told her that.
What about you, though, man? Equal opportunity.
This
here,
is
man.
true.
Yeah,
This is true.
Yeah. How are you in the kitchen? You okay?
No, that's why I asked her.
No,
it's not a sexist thing, guys. It's just she's better at instructions.
Okay.
I'm terrible with cooking, but she's opened up to me in terms of teaching me, finishing up certain recipes and stuff. The last one that she wanted me to finish was this dessert that we did, and it turned out super good. And that gave me a sense of pride in terms of wanting to try at least.
Nice.
It's funny. We had this recent conversation because she makes these like crazy cakes. These cakes. We're gonna bring it on at a party.
Okay.
Christmas party. But she told me, we were talking about it, and I told her, hun, this is like super good. Like, and she's like, it's not, I don't want to, it's not to put down people, but I don't understand how hard it is to follow instructions. I'm like, hun, you don't understand. Like, I think of different things like, okay, is it this much or is it, there's something that goes.
What's interesting, baking is such a precision thing, right?
It is.
Baking is precision. Cooking it's like you're freestyling. Like, it's almost like, I don't know, maybe this is a bad parallel, but like classically trained musicians versus someone that can just jam and riff, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah, like cooking, a lot of it is just you just go to taste. There's no recipe that you're following. And does this taste good? Okay, do I have to take something out? Do I have to put something in?
Yeah.
A lot of it's trial and error, but and I can imagine, with Filipino cooking, it must be really similar too. Like,
I think so. Yeah. When I think of Filipino food, it's not like, let's just say, for example, it's not like Korean food where it's like there's pieces that you can count.
Right.
A lot of it was, and I think me and my friend were talking about it. In the Philippines, you cook for huge families.
Yes.
So it's not like piece by piece. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
So a lot of the dishes, bro, they're just meant. Yeah, they're mixed with a lot of things.
Gotcha.
And just meant to scoop and put on rice.
Got it.
But yeah, that was what do you call? Yeah, Joss. I told Joss, you gotta learn mom's cooking. Because she cooks better. I know I'm gonna mess things up. Yeah, guys.
But so I think that was really good that you mentioned, values over culture. I think that's probably the most important thing for Zozo. But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. So like, do you feel like your mom and dad, do they have some influence on the way that she's being raised, like in a good way?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
do you feel like having her grandparents, have they begun to impact her? You feel?
Oh yeah, my parents are just they love kids. I think they wanted more.
Yeah.
Especially my dad. My dad's just super. You ask every grandchildren from my side,
Yeah.
they're gonna say they love grandpa the most. Yeah, he's just so good with kids. He's just so gentle and understanding, and he just knows how to connect with with the kids, bro. But what I'm so thankful for with my family is that, and I think this is with other Filipino families, is that they have a connection with their grandparents.
Okay.
And I think it's because in Philippines you just grow up with the whole household,
Yeah.
And so when mom and dad's at work, you're with the grandparents.
Okay.
And I think that's just a cycle.
Nice.
And I believe that's pretty prevalent in Filipino families. But I'm so thankful for that because my parents love to watch Zozo. They ask us to bring her there. It's not like it's not humbug for them. And I'm so glad for that because, it's tough with kids.
Yeah.
Your life changes with your schedule, and
That makes sense.
and having someone to watch him that you trust immediately.
Yeah.
Man, you can't find that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's babysitters, but that's not a 100% trust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, the in the Philippine culture, or at least from my parents, they have heavy influence as to, and I'm so grateful that it's them, that it's their influence that's upon Zozo.
Yeah.
Because I would want the same upbringing, the way that my parents raised me for a lot of people, and that's just my opinion. Yeah.
Of course.
If they knew, or if they had kind of a vision of, or a sense of how I was raised from my parents, I would love to present that or give that to each child, because they just, not that I'm saying that I'm perfect or whatever, but the way that they raised me, it was so good. I mean, it's not on my end, it wasn't so good, but
Walking around wearing 3 pants every day, huh?
But let's just say I'm grateful for the way that they raised me,
Gotcha.
and I'm glad that it's they're doing the same for Zozo.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were to think about just today, as an adult, if you could go back in time and ask your parents anything before they moved to the US, what would you ask them?
Oh, what are you thinking in terms of when you ask that question, or is it straight up like?
I don't think there's a wrong answer to that, honestly. I think, if there was anything that maybe you were curious of, like, why did you make this decision? Like, what was this for? Did you just feel like, there was something more out there? This is something that you wanted for us as kids, like, what do you think?
Yeah, well, when I think of what they had to leave behind, there were some things that they had to sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's got to be some give and take there.
Yeah.
And I think then this answer is coming from a parent now.
Okay.
And I think it's because they wanted a better life for their kids.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. There's some things that needed to be not traded, but there's things they had to sacrifices.
Yep.
Yeah. And the definition of sacrifice is giving something to get something better back, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was in their mind for us kids, and I would assume that was their intentions.
Yeah.
And I guess if I had to ask them a question, I think I would ask them that, or maybe how difficult it was for them to really let go of things, because they have families too.
Sure.
My dad's one of 14.
Wow.
He was taking care of his siblings, and even till now, he, I think there's a side of him that that would hope that he could take care of them in more ways, I guess. But I think because he has his family, then that's the immediate priority. Yeah. And same thing with my, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, when's the last time you've been back?
2013, I think. And that was a memorable trip. We went for a church mission trip, and we were lucky enough to be able to go to my parents' church. And my auntie there, she was in the hospital with some stomach issue. She was okay, but she had some stomach issue. When I went, so we arranged for myself to go see them, and these are like my mom's sisters, immediate sisters. So I went into the hospital, and I went into the room, and two of my aunties were there. And my auntie just comes up to me, and she hugs me, and she starts crying, a little bit. And I'm like, my immediate thought, and this is one of my memorable stories in that trip, it was, this person hasn't had a relationship with me for like immediate, like in proximity, wasn't living with us or whatever, but she loves me this much.
Yes.
And that was so insane because that made me realize, like, my gosh, like, family is so, their idea of family is so like tight knit and so pure that, even distance or everyday life, having that absent doesn't mean that they love us less. And it was so nuts. That was one of the things that I remembered.
That's super transcendent right there. For sure.
So I think that's the question I would ask, like, how difficult was it to leave home? Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Ray, in closing, I mean, I thank you, first of all. I mean, a lot of vulnerability there. I feel like, I don't know, there's always something really, really interesting just kind of getting to know people before you knew them, if that makes like you see people at face value, you get to know them, and then of course your relationship with them in that moment kind of dictates your relationship moving forward. But oftentimes we just don't know people's history and their past, but in your own words, just with all of your experiences that you had throughout your life, like, if what are some of the things that if you were to describe yourself, the man you are today, just based off of everything that was taught to you growing up, like, what are some of the things that you'd want people to know about you?
Oh, that's tough, because there's things that you want people to see you as, and there's a truth. And there's seasons where I had a really tough time in terms of navigating through life and making mistakes that I felt like I shouldn't have made. But I mean, now in this time and place, with the birth of Zozo, it just changed a lot of things, because now you have such a and I don't want to call it an expectation of,
there's a different level of responsibility.
And there's not a heavy weight. There's a realization of how heavy that weight is. And so I think, I mean, every day you're just trying to get better at your vices. And I think what I would want people to know me as is, and this is what I'm working on too, but I want people to see me as someone that's reliable, that takes responsibility. That one I'm pretty okay with, the responsibility. The reliable one, I'm still trying to, work things out. But as an adult now, my goal is just to be a foundation for Zoe. I just want her to see that. That her dad does his best.
Gotcha.
And with excellence. And so that's kind of what I want people to know.
I think that's a really, really good answer. Absolutely. But Ray, really, love hearing your stories. And again, I know that this is something the audience can resonate with. Again, we all have these unique experiences growing up, but it's really nice that you're able to share that. And I thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and it's nice, and it's fun to talk about your past, experiences
For sure.
because you don't get to do it every time.
Hey.
And it's good. It's good documentation,
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're definitely gonna, I'll have a set of questions. We'll do another one, and we'll definitely do your side. And I think, like you said, it's nice to hear other people's stories.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we can get other people on besides
That's the
myself
goal.
and you.
That's the goal.
That'll be sick. But thanks for those questions were solid, bro. Yeah,
I told Ray, I was like, I'm gonna get my
did research.
interviewer bag, so be prepared. We're gonna go deep.
yeah. No, but thank you. That really helps me solidify things in my head and in my memories. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So that was solid, bro.
Awesome, man. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And again, back to that gratitude piece. Everyone, thank you so much for the support. Really, we're having a lot of fun. And regardless of if it's one person listening or 100, this is just something that, we feel is important for both of us, mainly for us. But, the fact that, we can reach other people, awesome. So till next one.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace.